Michael Laboydre worked as a detective at the Queensland Police Cyber Crime Unit from 2014 to July 2017. He participated in private and state government incident response meetings and conducted investigations into hacking, extortion offences, insider threats, and responded to hundreds of complaints submitted to the Australian Cybercrime Online Reporting Network, an acronym of ACORN for those of you who may have heard of that. Michael supported numerous individuals, SMEs and state government agencies adversely affected by financial and cyber-based offences. In July 2017, after 12 years of service, Michael left the Queensland Police Force for the private sector, where he continues to work towards raising our awareness to the risks of cybercrime-styled offences. I'll leave that there for introductions and I'll let Michael continue on. And he has quite a large presentation for you, so please join me in welcoming Michael to the stage. Thank you.
Just quickly, I was ex-military and I worked in IT a long time ago, and I joined the Queensland Police in 2005. It seemed like a good idea at the time. I worked in uniform policing for only a couple of years, and I worked in plainclothes policing, and I got my detective's appointment. And I worked in a busy regional CIB office in the south side of Brisbane. I thought I was going to have a bit of a quiet break, and I thought I might go and work at the Cyber Crime Unit because I had IT experience. It didn't really pan out that way. It was a very busy place to work. We were responding to calls through that ACORN system, the Australian Cyber Online Reporting Network, and we were dealing with probably 50 new reports a day of individuals in Queensland who had been attacked and had their information breached. So I did a lot of different jobs when I was there. I suppose they sounded impressive. I worked with international law enforcement agencies, the FBI, Interpol and European cybercrime groups. We had some good arrests and fired offenders. Lots of different sort of offences, stalking offences, but a lot of my day-to-day work was effectively just speaking to people and trying to triage the damage that had been done because they'd lost control of their information. And I suppose that's where my attitude comes from as far as how we treat our information and where these stories come from. They're all first-hand investigations that I ran. At some point I may rant and point and yell. I do it with the best intentions because I want you to walk away from here with a bit more sort of, with some knowledge under your belt and try and prevent these sort of terrible crimes from occurring in you and your family's lives. The first three things I'll cover is basically, these three are basically my golden rules for your personal information safety. The first is everybody is a target. If I sit down and have a coffee with you, at some point someone will say to me, I'm not a target, all I have is mortgages and credit card debt and I have no value to criminals. It just doesn't work that way. Your information has a dollar value to criminals. It doesn't matter who you are. If a criminal can't generate profit from your identity, they will use your identity to steal from someone else. So everybody's a target, doesn't matter who you are. All information has a value, a dollar value to criminals. And the dollar values are just simply obscene. When I started working in Brisbane, I couldn't believe that the amount of money leaving Brisbane. I wouldn't have thought Brisbane was a big target for criminals, but I would often see tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars being lost on a weekly and fortnightly basis from individuals and businesses. So because the profits are so obscene for cyber criminals, there's just simply no end to this game. You'll never reach a safe point, you'll never reach a safe state. That's why awareness is the first step, because if you can't raise your awareness and you can't stay on track of what's happening, you'll fall behind and criminals will redesign their attacks and find new ways to make money. I like to think of your information as a giant jigsaw puzzle, and it's just been scattered all around the world. A lot of that puzzle will be controlled by businesses, by governments, by organisations, but we hold a lot of this puzzle ourselves. And from a criminal's point of view, imagine there's a photo of you and a jigsaw puzzle and it's spread up. The more pieces of that puzzle a criminal can put together, a better picture of who you are, the better the attack will be and the more effective the attack will be. I'm going to keep coming back to those 3 points. I'm going to talk about a group called ID Care. It's a non-for-profit organisation. They work out of the Sunny Coast University. It's a brilliant organisation. They offer counselling and support for people who are affected by information-style attacks all through Australia and New Zealand. And I'm going to speak to them about a resource that you can keep under your belt. But in 2017, they spoke to 20,000 individuals in Australia and New Zealand who were affected by cybercrime events. 20,000 people. What it turns out is it's 35,000 engagements, it's 46,500 hours of specialist counselling they provided for Australian and New Zealanders. So there's no other source of point of reference that we can go to because these guys are the experts in dealing with affected individuals. What they found is that almost 48% of their clients were aged 25 to 44. There's this massive misbelief that we think that pensioners are going to be targeted by cyber criminals, or I'm worried about my teenage children because they don't understand the importance of their identity and their information. That's not the problem. We're smack bang in the middle of the sights of the criminals, and we're the ones that are being affected. Not me, but other people might be affected. And this is a really important statistic. At first, you might not realise how important this is. So, of the 20,000 people they spoke to in 2017, 71% were the first to detect the event had occurred. So they found out themselves that their information had been breached. So think about that. You're not receiving a letter or a phone call from someone who says your information's been breached and this is how you can protect yourself. People you know, and maybe yourselves, will one day be the point of contact where you realise, oh my goodness, oh my God, I've lost control of my information. What do I do? 71%. That's an astounding figure. And this is where a lot of that emotional impact and the devastation that these events occur, because people just, there's nowhere clear to turn to. Who do I turn to if I've lost control of my information? How do I do a credit freeze on my accounts if someone's taking control of my identity and applying for loans in my name? So I'm going to offer two scenarios. The Queensland chapter has probably seen this, but I will move on. The rest of the slide deck's different. So I want to give you a demonstration of how little information is worth such a value to criminals. So the first scenario is name and date of birth. I had an investigation on the south side of Brisbane where there were some low-tech criminals that were harvesting information through low-tech, no technology means. And they came to our attention because they were generating a significant sum of money through applying for small, quick and easy online loans in other people's names, like $5,000, $10,000 loans. I would suggest that if you found out that someone had made a loan of $10,000 in your name, you wouldn't call it small, but that was the point of reference. So they were small loans, and they generated close to $100,000 very quickly. And when we were looking at their application, online loan applications, we started to identify the fact that most of the information they were putting in their forms was not correct. They were still getting successful loan applications. The two key bits of information they needed was your name and date of birth. There's an interesting article from Western Australia where a chap who found out a Telstra account had been created in his name, and there were mobile phones and other sorts of things. And when he eventually got his hands on the actual application, he found that the criminals had used his name and date of birth and his mother's address, but the rest of the information is not correct. We had this perception that when we apply for some of these small, quick and easy online loans, that every part of that loan application is scrutinised. It's not. Your name and date of birth are two of those key pieces of that puzzle. And in fact, this is my only slide today on social media, and I could talk all day about our attitude to social media. But we would all share enough information on our social media accounts for me to open bank accounts in your name. No problems with it at all. No problems. And that's my rant about social media, if you move on. The next scenario is a bit more complicated and a bit more disturbing. I've called it the travel scenario. So what it is there's a retired couple that live in Queensland. They plan a short overseas holiday. They're out of country for about 13 days, and they carry with them their iPhone. They don't have global roaming. They're just using their iPhone to access Wi-Fi points and to access emails and social media. When they return back to Brisbane, they find out that their phone basically no longer connects to their telco. So they get home and they call their telco and go ask, why is my phone not working? And they find out that upon their request, the phone number had been ported to a new SIM. So they asked, well, we didn't ask for this phone to be ported to a new SIM. And as they're trying to figure that out, they receive information and confirmation that their self-managed super fund had been moved, as per their request, into a number of accounts. At the time that I got hold of this investigation, there was almost $500,000 of their self-managed super fund moving between different accounts in Australia. Some of those accounts were their own accounts, which the criminals had taken control of, and some of those accounts were completely fraudulent accounts. Some of that money was frozen and returned, but at the end of the day, close to $250,000 of their self-managed super fund was lost offshore and never regained. So information versus profit. A criminal group have put almost 2 weeks worth of work in, and they've gained close to $250,000. And attacks on our super funds is just prolific. Like, if we ever had an investigation where a small accountancy firm had like a keylogger or were attacked, there were two things the criminals would go for. They'd go for your super funds and they'd go for your MyGov accounts. And I'll talk about your MyGov accounts later. What happened? So we seized their phone because of the money involved, and we did a forensic examination, and the phone wasn't hacked. There was no apps or anything on there. But we could see that as they travelled through their holiday, they were accessing Wi-Fi points constantly, free Wi-Fi points, and they were accessing their email accounts. So what happened was effectively they lost control of their email accounts because Wi-Fi points is incredibly unsecure. In fact, I want to clarify that we talk about these sort of hacking offences and everyone kind of assumes it's not me and it's not happening in Australia. Brisbane Police were warning that there was a group of criminals that were actually using Wi-Fi points to access our information. If it's occurring in sleepy Brisbane, I can guarantee you it's occurring everywhere else in Australia. So what happened with that couple is they basically accessed a rogue Wi-Fi point and they lost control of their personal email account. So how important is your personal email account? Well, how hard is it to hack Wi-Fi? How hard is it where maybe or maybe not using the free Wi-Fi for the hotel? Well, hacking Wi-Fi is actually really not hard at all. There's a security company in England that ran a controlled experiment. They got 7-year-old Betsy, they bought her a milkshake, they put her in front of a computer, they gave her a walkthrough, and under 10 minutes, Betsy had followed the simple commands and was accessing a public Wi-Fi. Imagine if you send a letter in the mail and you close a letter up and all the contents of the letter are hidden within that letter. Well, that's protected, encrypted communication in a way. But if you get a postcard and you write my username and password and you send that postcard through Australia Post, every post person that sees that postcard can see that username and password. That's what you do when you access public Wi-Fi without any protection. So accessing Wi-Fi is a really simple example of how simple some of these attacks are. And if you really cannot follow instructions, there's a group in the US that sell this item, it's called a Wi-Fi pineapple. You can buy it for $100 US. It's a security tool, but basically you take it home, you configure it. You could then go and sit at Starbucks, turn it on, and it would just actively collect all information that's being transferred across a public Wi-Fi point. We're not talking about really super technical, hard to do things. I want to go back to your personal email accounts. What is the value of your personal email accounts and why was it important for this couple that were on their holidays? When you came in the room today, if I'd have asked you to write down the top 10 assets that you own, you'd say cars, houses, other things. But your personal email account, I would suggest to you, is one of those top 10 assets because the information in your email accounts is everything I need to do to steal your entire life. We just don't really think too much about the importance of it.